Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this June 30th, last day of June 2015 day. On our calendar, I'm your host, Greg Anthony, again on First Amendment Radio. Here we are on Tuesday, looking forward to a great show. This is part 5 of Exposing the Circle Earth Theory. And I've called upon Rob Skiba. He did a video that was quite interesting, 2 hours and 51 minutes. We're about 2 hours into it, and I promised to finish this. And then put it on, I don't know what I'll do with it. I'll make it a 5-part series. And people are wondering, why do I spend so much time on this issue when so much is collapsing around us? Well, wouldn't you like to know what we're standing on and what actually is collapsing? I think it'd be a really an affront to my journalistic career, if you want to call it that, to leave this place without knowing what I was walking on. Now, call me crazy, but I really want to be kind of sure that I understood what the Earth really was. If I didn't understand that, how could I understand anything else? How many of us are thinking that we're just spinning around at 64,000 miles an hour, and all those people down in the southern hemisphere are just hanging on for dear life? Wouldn't it be interesting if it wasn't the way that NASA told us? I have a hunch it isn't. And so, while we watch the world collapse around us, wouldn't it be nice to know what it is, what the world really is? I think it would. And so we move on with this 5-part series. Now, another thing I want to mention, listen, I run a show that I need your support. Now, many people say they don't like, I'd like you to go to my website at Arctic Beacon, ARCTICBEACON. And if you listen to this show, just hit my donate button for $10. And perhaps if a number of people do that, I can keep the show moving. Over the years, we go through ebbs and flows as far as cash flow to keep the show going. And somehow it always seems to stay on the air. There have been periods of time when I go off the air to raise enough money to stay on the air. And I'm asking you, go to Arctic, ARCTICBENCON.com and press that button. If you can afford more, fine. If you can afford less, that's okay too. If you can't afford anything, that's okay too. But anyway, I wanted to say that. Tell your friends to go there. Now, another thing I always wanted to, I want to kind of tie everything together here. When we talk about the Vatican-led New World Order, they're involved with this whole hoax about what this planet, why do we even call it a planet? What this Earth really is. And throughout the course of history, the Vatican's been on both sides of the fence. Well, that's the way they operate. They'll support anything, a dictator, a democracy, just as long as they can control your mind, body, and soul. And that's what the Pope is all about. And if you like living in a world like that, then more power to you. I don't. I just want you to know that you are bought and paid for, and this whole idea that we're coming on the 4th of July, and I don't usually do a 4th of July show. And the reason I don't this week, it's on a Saturday, so I don't have to. But when it's on a weekday, I don't do it because the first time I tried, I threw up right on the air. Yep, I did. And it was a very messy scene because I started to say, watch all these people carrying the flag, thinking they're free, and then having to listen, knowing I'm going to listen to those fireworks at night. I threw up right on the air, so I don't do a 4th of July show because I get sick to my stomach every time on that day because I see the hypocrisy. I feel the hypocrisy. It really regurgitates in me. I actually feel it because I've been talking about this for so long. And people seem to, we have to live in this world, don't we? But at least we should understand who controls us, what we're all about. Look, I was looking at what happened in Charleston, South Carolina. First of all, it was another false flag. I'll lay odds on, and they want to pit white against black. The whole thing. This has been going on since the '60s, and I've told my black friends I'm just as much of a slave as you are. In fact, probably more. I want some representation in this world. You lump all these white people together. I'm a Polish Caucasian. I'm not like some of, we're different. French, Irish, Italian, we're not all the same. When's the last time we had a Polish president? And you see me pulling that race card? Heck no. Because I know I'm a slave here. We've been a slave ever since the 14th Amendment, the time after Lincoln was killed by the Vatican. So you black people, don't you think you have it so bad? How many did you have your country gone through by Hitler, like I did? And then have the Americans, your own country, do it? Oh, but you don't want to talk about that now. We got too many big things. You're going to go and say, oh, pull down that Confederate flag. Racism exists. Black people don't have a fair shake. Well, nobody has a fair shake in this country. Until we all realize that they're pitting one against the other, we'll never figure it out. That's what they love. Oh yeah, Japanese American. Remember after World War II, they put them in an internment camp. And that's where we're all going to go if we don't wake up. And I have a sad feeling we're not going to. Because we're still allowing these controllers to rule us, to take over. They even tell us what we live on, and we believe it. The other day, they sent up a rocket ship that was supposed to, it is going to, the company that sent it up is supposedly going to be the first private company to take people in orbit. Well, you can't go in orbit. There is no such thing. And guess what? This ship was going to take supplies to the people on the International Space Station. Well, there is no International Space Station. There were no supplies in that rocket ship. It went up and it crashed in 2.5 minutes a couple days ago in the Pacific Ocean. There are no people up there. And until we start figuring out that NASA is a big lie, they're going to have you believing you live on a ball spinning around at 64,000 miles an hour. And then the planets are going all, it's a crazy, crazy idea when you really think about it. But, people like to believe big liars. That's who they believe. You think they're going to believe people like Rob Skiba or other people, or even, Christians who say, no, wait a minute. It's a globe, but it's stationary. We don't move. Okay. Nobody's going to believe them either. All you're going to believe is what you see on the Weather Channel, NASA, and all this garbage that goes on. And to all my black friends and everybody out there, an Asian, whatever color you are, we're all in this thing together. We're just as much of a slave as you are. And if you understand what the 14th Amendment was all about, you'll understand that. But you're going to get all rattled, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you follow the lead of those people that are controlling you, the real owners of this country, and that happens to be the Vatican-led New World Order. They're businessmen, they're bankers. All of these people, the military, the Vatican, controls this whole organization. They're a satanic group that needs to be outed. So, now that I got that off my chest today, let's get back to an important issue, and I think it's really important. Because if you're going to go to your grave not knowing exactly what you're even walking on, living these lies, then more power to you. I'm not. I'm at least going to find out for myself. So let's get back. We're about 2 hours and 3 minutes into this 2 hour and 51 minute expose by Rob Skiba. He's being interviewed by Josh Peck on The Sharpening. That's his show. And they're looking at this, the Bible's. They're going to the Bible for authority on what kind of a place we live on here. So let's shoot back to Rob and see what he has to say on the Investigative
the Earth's not
Journal.
Rotating this way. You know what I mean? It's rotating.
Right. Yeah.
It's rotating this way. So I mean, these are like the mind-bending things that you sit there, you're going, my gerbil's running as fast as it can because all the stuff, the same questions people are asking about. Well, how's that work on a flat Earth? A lot of them you got to ask, how's it working on a globe?
Right.
You know, I mean, the Earth is supposedly at, and this is interesting, 23.4 degrees. 23.4 degrees off of a 90-degree angle is 66.6 degrees. 66.2. Like, really? Seriously? Come on. Why? I mean, come on. I mean, for years I said 23.5 degrees. And then when I started doing the search on it, I'm finding, nope, actually, the scientists say it's 23.4. And I'm going,
Wow.
23.4, 66.6 off 66.6 off center. That way. So if you've got a sun that's 93 million miles away, way over here, off center of the equator, and you're up here in North America, I still don't see how you're getting the sun to look right over the top of your head, because the Earth's not rotating this way; it's rotating this way.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know.
Of all, there's a few different flat Earth models, and you've shown a few different ones. Which one do you think is most plausible? Like, which one, if you were to fully go out and say I'm a flat Earther, which particular model do you think you would subscribe to?
Well, the one that makes the most sense to me is the one that's on the UN flag. It's the one that I've been showing here. That it's not flat like a pancake. I mean, if you're going to use a pancake analogy, you might as well say it's a harvest nut pancake with strawberries and lots of syrup and whipped cream. You know, because I mean, it's got it's got structure to it. It's not just a flat. But if I was to embrace this whole idea, the one that makes the most sense to me is something that is a disc that, relatively speaking, is flat, that has its, mountains and valleys and whatnot, that has the boundary, the 200 to 300 foot high stone and ice cliffs of Antarctica as the outer boundary of it. And beyond that outer, like Operation High Jump, okay, here's the ledge of Antarctica. Okay, you went up over it. What happened next? And this is where the deep freeze mission gets really interesting. The South Pole, depending on on the globe, if you go on Google Earth and look at this, the exact point of where all the longitudinal lines come together, it's that point, and the latitude lines and everything come to that one point. It's between 800 and I think 1,800 miles from wherever you got onto the surface, because it's a weird shape, So there's some places where it kind of dips in and like that, and I think it was like 800 miles from the most shallow point to the center. From what I have been reading, I think they got about 300 miles in and may have encountered something. Now, on the globalist conspiracy Nazi side of things, the people who study like the stuff that Jim Wilhelmsen is known for, Jim, he's got some great stuff on Inner Earth and the Nazis and New Schwabenland and whatever, Swabia or whatever. The Nazis setting up shop in Antarctica. I mean, he's like the go-to guy for that kind of stuff. But once you go down that path and you start thinking about, okay, the United States sent Byrd down there to go find the Nazis, and you hear the reports that he said supposedly that we got to be prepared for wars that'll be fought with ships that can traverse the poles, like, really quick, and all this stuff that supposedly the Nazis set up shop down there, maybe with alien technology, and they have created force fields. Now, the reason they say that is because supposedly on the Admiral Byrd, now this is conspiracy theory here. Okay, I'm trying to differentiate that from actual history, because it's hard to know what's actual true and what conspiracy theorists are just coming up with. But from what I've read, take it or leave it, some of Admiral Byrd's planes were lost because they allegedly smashed into something that they couldn't see. And so that led to the conclusion that the Nazis may have found a way to create an energy field. Well, that's one way to look at it. Or they just hit the end of the Truman Show. They hit the firmament. And when Byrd started losing ships and airplanes, they started saying, okay, let's get out of here. So when you combine the reality of history of that mission and then everybody pulling out with the conspiracy theory and ideas of planes hitting something unseen. Yeah, it could work with the idea of Nazis and advanced technology working with aliens. Sure. But is that any less plausible than the idea that they could have hit the edges of the dome? I think both are just as plausible if you're going to play the conspiracy card, you know. So it could be that you can't go much further than 300 to 800 miles. Whatever this plateau is that we call Antarctica, on the flat Earth model that's circular, you know, it seems to me that it's between 300 and 800 miles in. What's beyond that, I don't know. Apparently, it goes from a circle to a square because then you have 4 corners.
Right.
Somehow. Now, Matt Boylan, he's one of these flat earther guys. He believes in sort of the egg crate idea that we are just one pocket in an infinite plane of pockets. And he says, you know, what NASA's trying to tell us is Mars isn't really Mars. It's just what's in the next pocket. And
Wow.
What they're trying to do is keep us all enslaved in this pocket while they go find another pocket that they can rule and reign and, you know, do whatever they want to do over here with all of us useless eaters, you know. So, I mean, he's got some interesting theories too, that, you know, the multiverse sort of is compacted into this idea. And I don't think he subscribes to the dome. See, this is where, from what I'm observing, not all the flat earthers believe in the dome. Mark Sargent does. I don't know that Eric Dubay does. I don't think that Matt Boylan does. So, I mean, they're fighting with each other, you know, calling each other shills, and you're this and you're that. It's kind of no different than in our world, you know. It's pre-rapture. No, it's pre-trib. No, it's not. You're a heretic. It's post-trib. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Flat earthers are splitting off into their denominations too. There's another whole class altogether that's the concave, which is the one that makes the least sense to me. There are some compelling animations and people out there who really believe it. I'm having enough trouble just wrapping my head around the flat part, you know. Being that it's this way, that it's a, you know, curve like this. I don't see evidence of any curve, this way or this way. You know, from all my observations so far, it's flat.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The one of the other questions somebody had was about, and I know you've gotten this one a lot, flight paths. How would it work? Wouldn't pilots know? You know, how would we be able to navigate, and how do flight paths work? Because you know, the flat Earth model is completely different than the globe. So I'll give you a chance to get all into that.
Yeah, the flight path thing is really interesting. There's a video called The Long Haul that's part of Mark Sargent's series on the Flat Earth Clues. I posted something on my Facebook page last night. Let me pull this up. Okay, this is what I love this. There's a guy that put this video up recently. Let me see when he uploaded it. March 20th. Okay, so he was watching Mark Sargent's videos about the long haul. And what Mark Sargent says in the long haul is, in the southern hemisphere, you cannot track flight paths. Now, you could go to the website and say, what is the flight path from, say, Sydney to Cape Town or whatever, or how are you flying from, you know, Australia to South America or whatnot, and they'll draw a nice pretty line on a map. Okay, that's a nice pretty line on a map. Now prove it. So when you go on these flight trackers, there are different websites that you can track flights all over the place. The southern flights all disappear. They take off from wherever they're going. They get so far off of whatever country they're flying off of, and they get out over the ocean and disappear. And they're gone until about an hour before their destination, and they reappear. Now, I didn't go out and try to confirm this myself. I had interviewed Mark Sargent, and I watched his video, and he talked about it and provided evidence that he had done it. But I didn't actually go do it for myself. But this other guy did, and somebody shared this on my Facebook page yesterday, and so I'll share it here. Hopefully there's no bad language. This guy, I knew he started swearing towards the end because he was like freaking out, like, why are we believing these people? But anyway, here's...
So hey guys, I'm on planefinder.net. I'm tracking airplanes in the southern hemisphere, trying to do some research to verify or debunk this flat Earth guy. And what he said is that airplanes disappear in the South Atlantic near the, in the Southern Hemisphere when they fly over oceans. And it's true. I was tracking a British Airways flight from Buenos Aires to London, and I was tracking, and then it disappeared. And then I clicked on this plane right here, Qatar. See how the flight path, like when you click on the plane, the flight path appears or disappears, right? So I clicked on this plane looking for my British Airways flight, and I found this flight, and look, see how the flight path just starts in the middle of nowhere right here?
Yeah, you can play it for yourself. It's disappearing flights over South Atlantic confirmed. I didn't want to get into any swears if he starts going off, but I mean, you watch the video and he's actually watching he's doing he's testing it, and he's going there, and exactly like Mark said, he says, go on these websites, track these planes, you'll see, they take off, and boop, they disappear, and they're gone for 6 hours or whatever, and then boop, they show up about an hour before the landing on the other side. And so, all I can say is regarding the flight paths, yeah, there's some great lines drawn on maps on aviation websites, prove that that's the path that they're taking. I haven't been able to prove it. I've not been on one of those flights, so I don't know. But when you try to confirm it, I mean, I don't know how else you could confirm it, because you do on the track. I mean, unless you're really good at knowing exactly where you are when you're flying at 37,000 feet over an ocean. I mean, while you're sitting in a passenger seat, how in the world could you confirm that whatever path that they're taking is the path that was drawn on the map? I don't know, but I will say this. When I went to Kenya, we flew from Dallas to Atlanta, and then we flew from Atlanta over the coast of Greenland over to London, and then from London we flew down to Kenya. Now, on a flat Earth map, that's a straight line.
Wow.
You put it on the flat Earth, it's like straight line. Now, the counter argument to that, and fair enough, is that on a globe, sometimes it's a shorter distance because of the size of the globe to go over the top this way than to go around the wider part this way. There's also commerce. Instead of flying just from Atlanta to Kenya, airplane companies want to make money, so they pile a bunch of people that may be going to Kenya on a plane that goes to London to get a bunch of other people from London to go to Kenya. Okay, commerce
Right.
and the curve of the Earth, those are reasonable arguments too.
Okay, that's a reasonable argument. Okay, but here's a better way when you look at this. He's tracking his flight from the northern hemisphere to the southern. Better yet, go down to the south and start looking, just book a flight from some of those countries in Australia to South America. And the flight patterns and the times make absolutely no sense, indicating that something's really up. If you look on a globe, it should be a quick run, but it's not. And if you look on a flat map, you'll see why. They decided to take a different route. That's a general explanation. You have to do it yourself. You will see what I mean. It's crazy down there. And we'll be back with more of the Circle Earth Theory on the Investigative Journal.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States in 1963.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no secret is revealed. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President today.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America?
I've got a vision for what I want to do for the country. See, I know exactly where I want to lead. It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean?
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, we're back for the second half hour on the Investigative Journal on this June 30th, last day of June. It's 2015. Wow, how the years fly. But anyway, we're looking into the circular theory, and Rob Skiba is talking about flight paths and how these planes, if you go to these flight tracking websites, just disappear in the southern hemisphere. Now, I've been doing some research on global GPS. It was started by our military, and the whole world uses our system. And there were some whistleblowers from the military who I had researched, who are categorically have stated that GPS is a ground-based system. So, the reason it's a ground-based system is that there are no satellites up there. And that's a good starting point for you. Do some research on that. But anyway, everything is not the way you've been told in school. And hopefully you can re-educate yourself before it's too late. I personally don't want to be on my deathbed not knowing the place, at least the place that I lived on this earth. Just because some idiot at Nassau and some idiot in the Vatican told me so. Because they want to control you from the beginning to the end. Because I don't want, Catholics either to be laying on their deathbeds. And I know if you're young and in your 30s, you think that's never going to come. But I felt that way too. And it is going to come. None of us gets out of this place alive. It's one thing we share in common. Just a matter of when and where. So when you're on your deathbed, and I've always wondered what a deathbed is. Do they actually make them? Or is it going to be on, probably, I might be on my bed. I might be sitting in a chair. I might be in my car. I might be sitting on the porch. I might be flying in an airplane that decides to take a nosedive. I don't know. Deathbed. I think, do they sell them? I doubt it. What business are you in, sir? I'm in the deathbed business. It's a great bed. It's the one you want to die in. And I assure you, if you buy this bed, you will die in it. Okay. New idea for a company. I come up with all these company ideas. I mean, it's ridiculous. I have a idea to have a travel agency that takes you to the capitals of the world, including Washington, D.C., Vatican, all these places, to tell you the truth about the signs and symbols, to give you the real tour of Washington, D.C., and what all those signs and symbols mean. The Truth Tour to Washington, D.C. cost you $1,995, and you'll learn an awful lot. What a great company. That's another one that I should get going. The Deathbed Company, the Truth Travel Agency. Oh, man. They just start coming and coming and coming, these business ideas that I have. And, let's, what was I talking about? Well, we're all going to come to that time in our lives when we, in the Vatican, they're going to tell you, oh, you may go to purgatory, or don't believe their view of heaven. They want to control you after that. So don't believe a word that comes out of their mouth. That's my advice to you today. And I would put more credibility into what Mr. Skiba's saying here than I would any idiot over at NASA. And including those guys over there at Mount Graham and in the Vatican laboratory there, their little, they got a telescope there named Lucifer, and they're involved with the University of Arizona. I'd rather believe Rob Skiba and a number of other people who are doing some amazing research on the circle Earth. Let's go back to Rob Skiba on the Investigative Journal.
But so is a straight line on a flat Earth. I mean, it's like, so, now it becomes somewhat problematic on the circle Earth model, especially on the continents that are on the outer edge. Especially if you're going from like Sydney, Australia, to Cape Town, and if you're going on the outside of the rim, that's a seriously long journey.
Yeah.
But the question is, are they, or are they kind of doing this? I mean, on a flat Earth, it may be a straight line to kind of come up over Indonesia and kind of, I don't know. There was another map that somebody sent me from around the world race. They get in these boats and they race around the whole world. And the map showed 6,000 miles. I'm rounding the numbers here. It was about 6,000 miles from Sydney to Cape Town on the path that the boats were taking. And then from Cape Town up around Africa and over to the top to Europe, let's say to Scotland. I don't know if that was where it was, but up there, it said it was like 5,000 miles, that leg of the race. Well, if you go on Google Earth and plot that out with the ruler on Google Earth, which is allegedly a depiction of our Earth to scale, it was more like 7,000 miles on Google Earth. So, in other words, it was longer to go from Cape Town to Scotland than it was from Cape Town to Australia on a globe. On a flat Earth, it's all truncated, and the 5,000 being shorter than the distance to Australia actually made sense. So, I don't know, dude. It's
a lot to think about. There's definitely a lot of good points and a lot of good questions. Someone else. Go ahead.
Regarding the flights disappearing, in the here is supposedly because there's no GPS satellites or whatever tracking them. Well, I've had 3 independent witnesses tell me, unsolicited, that GPS is ground-based. And one of them, my friend John Gabrielson, has a friend who's a 15-year veteran, still in the military, in the Air Force, and his job is in the GPS field, and he's in constant communication with the pilots of AWAC airplanes. Those are the big airplanes that have the rotating disc on top. He's in constant contact with these guys. I mean, the job that he does requires somebody to be on duty, to be in constant 24/7 contact with the AWACS. And he told John, unsolicited, had nothing to do with flat Earth, but John basically said, I heard a rumor that the GPS is all ground-based. And without even flinching, this Air Force guy says, oh, yeah, absolutely, it's totally ground-based. Everything's ground-based. Ground-based in the sense that it's terrestrial with AWACS, planes and drones and other in atmosphere things, not satellites. And when he asked him about satellites, he said all the guy did was kind of grin at me like, we can't talk about that. So,
Wow.
you know, what do you think about that? I don't know, but I do know this, that even in the Orion project, the current project that NASA's working on, they, in the video, when they talk about the trajectory after they launch Orion, once it goes over the Indian Ocean, they lose contact for an extended period of time. And I'm going, well, how convenient is that? And that's always been the case. When Apollo, when the shuttles, whenever they, after they launch, there's a period, there's a window where everybody loses contact with everybody, and they can't connect with each other. Well, I mean, if I was to play the conspiracy card, that's really convenient for them to switch over technology or whatever. I mean, it doesn't. People. Here's the other reflex argument people say is, well, you know, are you telling me it would take tens of thousands of people would have to be in on this conspiracy? No, it wouldn't. I mean, if you don't understand compartmentalization, join the military. Because in the military, you have the private ranks, E1, 2, and 3. Okay? They don't know anything. They're just doing what they're told. In fact, you often hear, you're not paid to ask questions, just do what you're told. Or, you know, if you question your orders, I mean, you get Article 15, you know, you get chastised, you get, you know, punished. An E4 that commands a E1, 2, or 3 only knows what the E5 tells him. The E5 only knows what his platoon sergeant, E6, tells him. And the E6 through the E9 ranks, they, you know, only know what they need to know proportionate to their rank and their military assignment. And the commissioned officers know less than the highest commissioned the highest non-commissioned officer, i.e. Command Sergeant Major class person, would know less than a warrant officer first, W01. You know, and a W01 knows less than a CW5, Chief Warrant 5. And Chief Warrant 5 knows less than a second lieutenant in the commission ranks. And a second lieutenant knows less than a first lieutenant, knows less than a captain, all the way up to the 4- and 5-star generals, who themselves take orders from civilians in the Department of Defense, ultimately answering to the president. So when you understand how compartmentalization works, and in security clearances add a whole nother layer to this. You could be an E5 sergeant with a top secret security clearance and know more than a major or a colonel in the officer ranks as an E5 sergeant, because your security clearance makes you privy to specific information that is critical to whatever job assignment you have that the other guy doesn't need to know anything about. So when you take that to things like NASA and pilots and things like that, most of these people wouldn't have to have a clue. Joe Blow, you know, rocket scientist, he thinks he's building rockets, and he is. He's building rockets to get put on a rocket pad and get sent up somewhere. But then he loses contact with them for an extended period of time. And then other people are trained on equipment to understand the readings on the thing that they put on the launch pad, and they're watching blips and data. Well, they're trained on a piece of equipment to understand what the blips and data means. They don't know where it's coming from. They think it's coming from the thing that was launched off the pad. But who's to say it's the same information couldn't be beamed to them in that period where everybody loses communication from someplace else? I mean, they got $2.3 billion to play around with, so it's not unreasonable for me to believe that they, whoever they are, that could be perpetuating a conspiracy, are lying to their own people, so they don't question. Nobody questions anything. They just go to work and do their job. You know, and then later, you know, something falls from the sky, and good, honest, patriotic, and maybe even godly people go pick them up, you know, in the ocean or on the launch landing pad. And so the vast majority of people wouldn't have to know anything. And so it makes me wonder if that's not the reason why most, if not all, of our astronauts, just like our presidents, are Freemasons.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and if you watch the press conference of Apollo 11, especially the beginning of it, I posted it yesterday on my Facebook page. Those guys look messed up, man. You got 3 guys that, if it was me, I mean, dude, I get excited if I go to the park, you know, and I get on a cool ride. And I want to tell everybody about it. Man, that ride was awesome, you know, at Six Flags. These guys supposedly went and stood on the moon, and yet they look like zombies, like drones. And when you listen to Neil Armstrong start his speech, it's almost as if, you know, he's facing this way to the camera. It's almost as if he has an earpiece in this ear that you can't see, the way he's talking. He says a few sentences, and then says a few more sentences, and then, you know, it looks like he's being fed information that he's relaying, and then when they start putting images up on the screen, all of a sudden all three of them start coming alive. You know, and now I understand stage jitters and stuff, and you could be a pilot and all that and be like terrified to speak in public. I get it. Something's not right with that, though. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't look right. Now, could we be looking at MK Ultra? I don't know. All that stuff came out of the 50s and 40s and everything too. So, you know, when they started putting pictures up, did the programming kick in? I don't know. But I mean, if we can play the tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy, you could see how these things could play out to make, you know what I mean, for that to make sense. But then again, maybe they did go to the moon. I don't know. It's very suspicious to me. And the fact that we lose contact with airplanes over the southern hemisphere, and we lose contact with space shuttles and probes and everything else that goes over the Indian Ocean, that's awfully convenient to me, you know, when you're looking at it.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely something going on. I mean, if this turns out to be true, this would by far be the biggest conspiracy. I mean, what else would be bigger than that?
I joked about it the first time I interviewed Mark Sargent. I said, man, if this is true, this is the mother that gave birth to the mother of all conspiracies. You know, I mean, it is. But I can conceive of how that could be. And if I can think of how it could be, I mean, come on. These people who have access to unlimited money, resources, everything else, and groups of people, that, I mean, really. If I can conceive of it, surely it's way smarter and wealthier and, you know, people with access to more resources could think of the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and even more than that, an ancient evil that's been around for ages and ages.
Truly.
Let me see where I'm at in the questions today. I got a couple more, and then we can wrap it up. It's getting late. Let's see. Michael asks. I just want to make sure that we didn't already. All right, I want to make sure we didn't already answer any of these in the show. Michael asks, in regards to the flat Earth controversy, do you believe in the ancient Hebrew cosmology of a flat Earth with various heavens and lower compartments or chambers within the Earth?
Yeah. I believe we still, even in the flat Earth model, we still clearly have various atmospheres, you know, troposphere, thermosphere, all that stuff. You know, I mean, that stuff seems to still be there, obviously. Speaking of that, though, the thermosphere, they call it that because it's very hot. It's extremely hot. When you look at the range of temperatures that can take place in the thermosphere, you have to ask yourself, wait a minute, we're told that 3 buildings collapsed in New York City due to jet fuel, which gets to about 1,800 degrees, I think. I forget, but, I mean, steel melts like 2,000 degrees-ish. It gets hotter than that up in the thermosphere. Those buildings were on fire for like an hour, and they crumbled into a pile of ash in an hour, and yet you're going to try to tell me that aluminum satellites are hanging around for decades up in the thermosphere? I don't know. I mean, I could, whatever. There are clearly different atmospheres, and so the idea that the ancients may have known those as different heavens could be. You know, I mean, even if we consider things like the Van Allen belt. Now, on the globe model, you got the Earth and you got this belt around the Earth. Well, but on the flat model, that belt just becomes an inner dome inside the bigger dome. So is that what we call the Van Allen belt just another realm of heaven? I don't know. And beyond that, another realm of heaven, and on top of that, the top of the firmament, and then God heaven above that? Sure. And the lower levels, yeah, I mean, there's no problem with, I mean, hollow Earth works either way, it's globe or flat, because it's not flat like a two-dimensional plane. I mean, it has depth to it. So,
right.
So Hades and all that, and Tartarus, and all that's still there. So that would be how I'd answer that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Some of these we already kind of answered throughout the show, but I'll ask them anyway in case there's anything that you wanna add to them. Chris, wait, did I just? Oh no. Chris asks, is there any evidence of what is at the world's end? A rock barrier wall, a waterfall dumping into space?
Yeah, well, we've already addressed that. That the edge is the 200 to 300 foot high cliffs of the coastline of Antarctica. So no one's fallen off of anything. And
Right.
when you get up above that cliff and go in, well, you're going to find whatever Admiral Byrd's party found. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the speculation would be it's the edge of the dome. And so no one's fallen off of anything, because even if you go out that way, all you're going to do is run into the wall or the edge of the dome. So there's no falling off of anything in that model.
Yeah. Good deal. This one I'm not exactly sure what I kind of had to guess at what exact passage this person was bringing up. But Patrick asks, in Proverbs 8, it's written the earth is a sphere and hell is at the center of the earth. So how can you get at the center of a flat earth? I looked like 3 or 4 times in Proverbs 8, and the only thing that I could really find of what this person might be getting at is maybe verse 27 that says, when he prepared the heavens, I was there, when he set a compass upon the face of the deep. I'm not sure if that's what he was getting at, and then the center of flat thing, but yeah, go ahead.
Most likely that's what he's talking about, because that's a common scripture, just like Isaiah 40:22. People throw out Proverbs 8:27, but it's using the same word Isaiah used. Circle. It's not using ball. The Hebrew word for ball is dur. The Hebrew word here is not dur. It's chug. So it doesn't say sphere. People try to say, well, Proverbs says sphere. No, it doesn't. You're not ever going to find a description of the earth as a sphere, as a ball, as a globe, and nothing about it moving either. So that goes out the window, and we already answered the question of how there's still depth to it.
Yeah.
Something else I didn't point out before, but I want.
So excuse me, if that seems to be true, then it can't be a globe if we take the authority of the Bible, correct? Or am I off base? Back to Rob.
Do real quick here as well is the fact that no matter how high you go, now unless you believe the space program is legitimate, you end up with a horizon that never leaves eye level.
In an underwater world.
Hey, this okay. All right, this was an animation. Some have accused me of tilting the animated camera. This shows that the camera is doing the exact same thing. Both animations have also, in both animations, some have also said the previous test was not fairly representing altitude. Okay, what I'm showing here is this camera is going up at the same rate as this. I did the exact same animation for this video right here. This is a ball. When you leave a ball, the ball drops. I mean, but if you've got a horizon that extends for an extremely, and this is not you don't need an infinite horizon to get this effect. You just need a very large, very far plane, flat plane. At some point, because of the curvature of the ball, it has to drop below eye level. But every time you see even the Red Bull videos and other weather balloon videos where they're getting up to 120,000 feet, the horizon's always at eye level.
Okay, can you grasp that? Now, let me just try to explain it to you. The horizon's always at eye level. So the higher you go up, and if it's a globe, a ball, then you should see a curvature, right? But you don't. Now, I've been up at 30,000 in an airplane, and I see it's always at my eye level. I've been down with my goggles, wading out in La Jolla Shores, and everything's always at eye level. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, let's talk about Red Bull and the guy who they that jumped out, remember? And they did a big deal on it. Well, when he opened that hatch, you see from the interior a flat horizon at his eye level. As soon as he got out, he had his GoPro camera with the curvature built in. And the Earth didn't, from that distance, should have been much, much bigger. It had to be either photoshopped or done with a curved lens that they always use. So, what are the, it's just common sense. But another thing, just think about it. Go start looking for all of the, if we've been up in the moon since the 60s and we got all these satellites up there for years, we should have really good pictures of the Earth, but we don't. We got the same one they've showed us since 1970. That, to me, is a categorical proof that they are lying. And let's get back to Rob.
That's impossible on a ball. You can't do that on a ball.
Right. You know, it'd be interesting. I have a GoPro camera, and with it came a program to remove the fisheye, effect. So when I use it, it automatically records with the fisheye effect. But if you put it into the program, you can take that effect out. I wonder if anybody's ever tried using that with some of the videos, like the Red Bull thing, or with the guy jumping off the balloon. If somebody's ever tried to run that through the program that's supposed to take the fisheye and lens effect out and see what comes out after that. I wonder if anyone's ever tried that.
Well, at this point, I am sure somebody's going to, because there are enough people out there talking about this now, and I'm excited, man. Because on the one hand, the cultural hive mind is very, very dangerous when you tick it off.
Okay, we have ran out of time. I, in fact, went over a minute. So we will be back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.